Thypoch has sent me the new Ksana 35mm f2. It's part of the Ksana series, which is a range of lenses with golden coatings on it. This one is a relatively small lens, just like the 21mm f3.5 released by Thypoch. This lens we are going to compare against the Nocton 35mm f1.4 Classic. It's not the same lens, but I wonder how both of the coatings will hold up in different kinds of light. We are in Haarlem today, so we will be walking around a little bit, take some images. Now it's quite cloudy, but I've already tested out the Ksana a little bit early today, which was a very sunny moment of the day. As you might have seen in the marketing material, they've been promoting this lens with a special coating. This coating is the Epoch coating 84. It's based on the Olympus Suico coating from the 80s. It's a special kind of coating. It has a little bit of golden green color to it. I've been trying to make the Ksana flare a lot. It's kind of difficult to do because it's still a very modern optic with a modern coating, but it has a little bit of a vintage color to it. Because of this coating, we actually got really nice deep blue skies, red, very popping colors, which I like a lot. It really does make the images look good. It's almost like a cheat code. What makes this coating different from the 21mm f3.5 Ksana is that the 21mm f3.5 I think has an even more amber colored coating. So this one is a little bit less prominent, but it's still visible in very specific situations. The 21mm f3.5 Ksana also has a wider field of view, which means that the sun will be often in the frame. With the 35mm it's a little bit more cropped in, so when you are making images, the sun won't be as often in the frame, because it's also high up in the sky. When using this lens, I've only managed to get a yellow flare one time. It was when I was shooting against the sun, and I think the sun was just outside the frame. And there you see a little yellow blob in the middle of the frame, which you can't really correct. This lens has a knurled aperture ring, which is a feature I haven't seen in any other lens. I do like the tactility of using this ring. It does give the lens a more modern and especially unique look in a way. It makes changing aperture really easy with your fingers, which is also a plus in my eyes. This is also a better design compared to the 21mm f3.5 Ksana, where the aperture ring is nearly the same size as the focus ring. The aperture clicks are tactile, but not as tactile as the 35mm f1.4 Nocton and the 50mm f2.2 color scope are that I own. They're still clear enough to feel the difference and you can count the stops. I don't see it happening that you will accidentally bump the aperture ring to another f-stop. Do I prefer the 4th aperture ring? Yes, but I'm satisfied with the Ksana too. The lens focuses from 0.5 meters to infinity. The lens focus controls feel really smooth to use. It has a 120-degree focus throw, whereas the first, I would say 30 degrees, is from 0.5 meters to 0.7 meters, passing the notch, and from there it's quite a short focus throw to infinity. It makes it easy to use because it's almost like a Summicron-like lens. You can get this lens for €529 or $599, which in my opinion is a really good price for such a modern lens. There is some very slight chromatic aberration in the corners of the image, which is expected at f2. This is expected for a small lens of this size, and we are kind of splitting hairs there. I don't think we should be paying too much attention to that. Yesterday I went to Haarlem. I had an entire plan in mind. I wanted to compare the Ksana and the Nocton on that day. It was a very cloudy day, so the lighting conditions were changing all the time, so all the images that I took together were not usable for comparison. So today I went somewhere and then I took a couple of images with the same lighting conditions. We will be comparing them now, and you can see that the Ksana and the Nocton has very different renderings. Starting here with the Ksana and the Nocton at f2. I focused on those letters on the boat. So we are looking at the 400% crop. You can immediately tell that the Ksana is sharper in the middle of the frame. If you go a little bit toward the edges, the Ksana is still holding strong. If you're looking at the very far corners, it seems to hold the contrast a little bit better compared to the Nocton. Yep, so it has a little bit more definition but less sharpness. This Nocton is actually sharper in the corners than the Ksana. So at f2 and let's see. Then I made another comparison at f4, which is also an aperture that's used quite often. There we zoom in again on those letters, and you can see the differences are getting way smaller, and that the Nocton is actually keeping up to the Ksana. You're going to see that it's going to get more similar and similar. Going towards the edges of the frame, the Ksana has more contrast, but actually a little bit less sharpness. At f8, everything is exactly the same. For this image I was focusing on the left little bin, on the text. Here you can immediately tell that the Nocton is a little bit sharper than the Ksana. The Ksana seems to be optimized for further distances, so it has a little bit of a mid-zone dip. But what is immediately noticeable in this image, if I zoom out, the grass looks a lot better on the Ksana. And that's because of the flat field curvature, where the Nocton has a very outward facing field curvature. The bench also looks a little bit better on the Ksana. If we go towards the far edges, you can actually see that the Ksana has better performance. The Nocton has a very swirly bokeh that is very visible in the corners. and because of the field curvature, Nocton is actually sharper. A bit further from the middle, because the curvature goes in front of it. If you go to the corners, you can tell the Ksana has a little bit busier bokeh, and that's because of the spherical elements that are on the Ksana, which the Nocton doesn't have. So all in all, the Ksana is still a very sharp optic, but it's more optimized toward landscape distances, where I feel that the Nocton is more optimized for closer distances, for example portraits or people or like street photos. We will be comparing the Ksana at f2 against the Nocton at f1.4. What is very visible is that the Ksana maintains a very nice sharpness, but you can see the fall off of the bokeh is smoother compared to the Nocton. If we go toward the edges, you can see the bokeh shape is a little bit of a cat eye shape, and whereas the Nocton has a very bubbly bokeh, but still round shapes, which I really like. So you can see the Nocton has a more painterly rendering. If we were to compare the Ksana to the Nocton at f2, then you can see that the images are getting more similar, and that's because at f2 the differences get smaller, but you can still see a little difference in rendering. You can see the Nocton has a little bit less contrast. The Ksana is a bit more corrected, so that means there's also a higher contrast optic. And here I also have a little case for the Ksana. The Ksana has 0.5 meters focus distance, minimum focus distance. That means that if you want to take an image like this, it's not possible on the Nocton. You will need live view for this on your Leica, so it's more difficult to do it with film, unless you have like a ruler that you can use. So here you can see the Ksana can focus far closer, which result also in a shallower depth of field, which can look really nice in my opinion. Now that we are nearing the end of the video, I think you are curious about what I think of the 35mm f2 Ksana. I can wholeheartedly recommend this lens for this price point at $599 or 529 euros. It's a steal. It's a modern design, full brass build, very smooth focusing action, and nice aperture. It's an easy recommendation, to be honest. If you're worried about the yellow coating make your images too different, or you actually like that, it's actually a modern coating, but they made the outer tint a little bit yellow, which might, when you have very specific flaring coming into the lens, that will give it a yellow color. But in 95% of the cases, you get normal looking images. I've only managed to trigger an amber colored flaring just once. Why do I recommend this lens? With the 8 elements in the 5 groups, you get a very nice even sharpness across the frame. It has a very flat field curvature, and it has almost no distortion at all. I could see it when I was comparing images from this lens to the Portlander Nocton 35mm f1.4. That the Nocton, the images were actually almost bending outwards towards the middle, whereas the Ksana has a very nicely maintained sharpness across the frame. The Portlander Nocton did have better performance in the closer focusing distances compared to the Ksana. So if you like to shoot landscapes or subjects that are a bit further away, I can wholeheartedly recommend the Ksana. It's a no-brainer actually. For this price, you get such a nice brass build quality. They even have matched the coating to the chrome colors of the Leica M cameras, so it's a very nice match. And now we are done. If you want a little discount on this lens, you can buy this at the Thypoch store with the code Leica Lens List. You can find the link in the description below.